Hey, what is going on, guys? It's the SS Ultimate Goku back with another video, and today I'm going to be talking about the future of Aniplex of America as well as Funimation, because there's a lot of false information being spread around by a lot of people here on YouTube. That I guess haven't read the article or just read the article in the way that they thought this was going. So, here's how it is, guys. Funimation and Aniplex of America are not merging into two different or into one company. That's not happening. Okay? If you guys actually read the article, it's talking about streaming rights. It's not talking about the companies merging into one company, okay, or one anime company. That's not what they're doing. I don't know where this idea came from, or this conception is coming from. Funimation is still doing their own dub projects in Texas. Aniplex of America are still doing their dub projects in LA, etc. Aniplex, the company in Japan that makes animes in Japan, are owned by Sony Music. Funimation, which was recently purchased a couple of years ago by Sony Pictures, people are seeing the Sony name and assuming that they're the same company. They're not. Sony Music is Sony Music, and Sony Pictures is Sony Pictures. Sony Pictures develops the PlayStations. They develop, obviously, they have their own film and movie division as well. Sony Music, on the other hand, they develop more of music stuff, music products, and whatnot. As a matter of fact, Sony Music and Sony Pictures actually sued one another back in the early 2000s, and it is actually an official court case. You guys can look it up yourself. These two companies are actually two separate companies. They are owned in the same banner of Sony, which is why they both have the Sony name, but they are in not relation with one another in terms of being the same company or whatever. That's not true. Okay, so here's how it actually is going. So, Aniplex of America, they don't have a streaming service. They don't have a strict anime streaming service. Funimation has an anime streaming service, which not only is shown and accessible into the United States, it's accessible to, I believe, all of North America, as well as some places in other countries overseas. So Funimation has a variety of getting their anime titles out to other, fan bases, other countries and whatnot, their dubs as well as their subs. So what Aniplex of America is essentially doing is they're partnering up with Funimation in their streaming service to putting their anime titles on the platform, on Funimation's streaming platform. Still their dub, like they're still doing the dub themselves, not Funimation. Funimation's not doing their dub, it's their title. But they're putting it out there for people to see on a streaming service platform like Funimation now. This is why you're seeing Fate Zero, I believe was the show, that's going on there, as well as a few other titles. Now, a couple of years ago, this probably would have never have happened, because Aniplex of America was, as we all know, were pulling titles away from Funimation that they originally had licensed to them before Aniplex of America was a thing. Aniplex of America was created for Aniplex to just license the shows to Aniplex of America because they just wanted to have their own dubbing company in North America, and that's why that was created. Prior to the creation of Aniplex of America, dubbing company, which is not the same as Aniplex in Japan, which is the ones that actually make the anime. They were created, but before that was created, a lot of times Aniplex would then just license them out like most other anime companies license out, like Toei Animation and other companies. And a lot of them were licensed to Funimation. And Funimation, dubbed a lot of them, Full Metal Alchemist, Black Butler, just to name a few. And those titles were pulled away after their licenses were up once Aniplex of America was created, because they wanted nothing to do with Funimation, because Funimation was their own company and they were doing partnerships with other companies they were rivals to, so they didn't want anything to do with them. Once they were bought by Sony Pictures obviously has a better relationship with Sony Music because they're under the same Sony wing. They're not the same company, but they're under the same kind of wing, having the Sony banner. So they had more of a, so to speak, how do I put this, relationship. With the way content is being put out now, you pretty much have to have a streaming service. This is why a lot of people at Netflix are taking anime from Japanese companies for licensing reasons, because they have no content. Disney is pulling away their contents from Netflix for Disney Plus. Warner Media or Warner Brothers is pulling away their contents from Netflix because they're coming up with HBO Max. That's their own streaming service that's going to be coming out. So that's why they've been working with Viacom, which doesn't have a streaming service, and licensing out anime because they need content. This is this is the streaming contents war. If you're not on a streaming service, you're going to go nowhere. And Aniplex of America realized this. And so they were like, why don't we work with Funimation, partner up with them to having our dubs be put out on their platform. And most of them right now are not even dubs. Most of them are, I think, subs. I think there are a couple that might be dubs, but right now it seems to be just subs right now. But it might eventually change as well, too. But that's what the partnership is. That's what the merger is. Is that they're merging the streaming titles to Funimation. They're not necessarily fusing and merging in the sense of both companies are fusing together. No, they're not. Sony Music is Sony Music, and Sony Pictures is Sony Pictures. They're two completely different companies, two completely different incomes, and a lot of people that have been covering this on YouTube are not covering this correctly. You need to read the article and understand what they are talking about. They are talking about the streaming services. That is what they are talking about. They are talking about streaming rights and having more content on Funimation now, which is Funimation's streaming service, which makes sense when you think about it, especially with the contents like I've laid out, going out the way it is. So yeah, I hope this video was a little more informative to some people to understanding what is going on and why they're merging but not really merging. I mean, they're merging in the sense of streaming, but they're not merging in the sense of the two companies are about to fuse together and become one company. That's not happening, guys. So I hope this was kind of informative. Let me know what you guys think. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Also, click that notification bell if you have not for all the latest content. And comment, rate, and let me know what you guys think. This is it. I'm out. I am the SS Ultimate Goku, and I'm out of here. Peace.